Hello, welcome to Jennifer's Magical Book Club. Today I am here to read a novel which is called Paperboy. I'm going to continue from page 106. So I'm going to start. Mr. Sparrow was trying to let me in one of his secrets, and I had a hunch what he might be talking about. You moved his crates around a lot. Right, you were a messenger. Knowledge is not static. It has an ebb and flow much like the tides. Are all these books about philosophy stuff? Certainly not. Too much theory makes for a secondary existence. One should practice as well as preach. Mr. Sparrow got off from his chair and walked around the room and put his hand on different crates. English fiction, Russian fiction, the medievals, Shakespeare, biologists, politics, science, both modern and classic, geology. I find myself fascinated by the study of land masses. No doubt because of so much time spent bobbing up and down at sea. I got up and walked around the room from crate to crate. The books were old and worn, and most had pieces of paper sticking out the top. Do you have pottery was a word I always had trouble saying that, but I was going to blast it out of my mouth if that was what it took. Do you have pottery books? I had to shout to make the word come out. Yelling was like whispering. They both made words more of a sure thing. I never yell words in school, but I sometimes did it around grown-ups if I knew they wouldn't think I was off my rocker. You have so quickly discovered one of many divisions. I once considered pottery a form of indulgence shorthand, but I have worked to overcome my bias. I wrote one. I couldn't believe what I was hearing coming out of my mouth. I had never told anyone that I had written a poem, not even ma'am or rats. I had hidden the poem away in an encyclopedia volume after I had ever typed it. Perhaps you will help me with my bias. Shall we hear your poem? I knew I couldn't ask Mr. Sparrow if I could write it for him. He wouldn't let me get away with that. I sat down in the chair thinking about the poem smashed flat on the paper in the P volume on the encyclopedia at home. I could say the poem in my head, but there was no use trying to say it out loud. Can't say the words. Shall we try reciting in unison? It was worth a shot. I didn't stutter when my class recited the Pledge of Allegiance, or when I said the 23rd poem with ma'am. I'll retrieve some paper. You transcribe your poem for me, and we will recite it together. Do you have a typewriter? Even better, messenger. You are the modern communicator. Mr. Sparrow went into another room and came back with a gray case. He opened the snaps on each side and pulled out the typewriter. It was smaller than the one in my room. He put it on the table and brought the table where I was sitting. He gave me a clean sheet of white paper and I started typing. The typewriter keys didn't feel like my keys at home, but the words started coming out on the paper just the same, even though my hands were shaking a little. I wish I had a book. Mr. Sparrow picked up a magazine and started reading while I typed. When I had finished, I rolled out the sheet of paper and handed it to him. He pushed his glasses up from the tip of his nose and studied the poem as we sat in our chairs facing each other. He asked me with his eyes if I was ready. I watched his mouth and we started saying the poem together. I wish I had a book that did not have an end. I go to pick it up and it is new again. The words feel real and mine to share. They have no sound, they have no air. My voice is clear and lets me speak. My fear is gone. I'm never weak. My words all come and right on time. The words are true, the words are mine. The poem didn't sound like my words even though I had just typed them. Each word floated out of my mouth and joined up with Mr. Sparrow's to make one. I didn't stutter once or have to worry about gentle air or sneaking up or on sounds or fainting. My legs were itching. I looked down to see sweat trickling over my kneecaps and down my legs. For the first time, I had said words out loud that I had written on paper. Mr. Sparrow was smiling with his big arms folded across his chest. He looked at me for a while without saying anything and then stood. My bias against poetry had been properly challenged. A wonderful poem. I'm grateful to you for sharing my stuttering poet. If someone had called me a stuttering boy or a stuttering sixth grader or a stuttering teacher, I would have probably tried to pick up something and bust him. But stuttering in front of poets seemed to make stuttering a good thing for the first time in my life. The sound of words I had written and that Mr. Sparrow and I had just read kept bouncing around the room like a ball on the metal roof of our baseball dugouts. I thought about asking Mr. Sparrow if I was supposed to understand everything I had written in the poem, because I didn't. The words I had just picked out where they wanted to go. But I was late on my route and I didn't want to talk anymore because I wanted to hear the words I had just said roll down in my head. I looked for my newspaper bags. Your cargo is on the porch and I believe I owe you 95 cents and of course your customary tip if you would like to collect now rather than tonight. I had been so excited about our good conversation that I had almost forgotten about the third piece of the dollar bill. He handed me the coins from his pocket. From a book on a shelf near the front door, he pulled out another piece of dollar bill. Mr. Sparrow's words for the week was cellar. As I walked the rest of my route, I listened over and over inside head to the words I had said aloud with Mr. Sparrow. I listened to him call me stuttering poet. At Mrs. Worthington's house, I put her paper exactly where she liked it. When I turned the corner at Melrose, I saw that neither one of my parents' cars were in the driveway. That was good because it meant Ma'am was back from wherever she had gone, back where she belonged. So this is the end of chapter 8. I'm going to continue from chapter 9 next time, and I hope you have a good time with Paperboy. Thank you, and have a nice day. Bye.